Hey guys, it is Jason DeLong with Heartland Homes KC, and I'm on with Drew today. He had a couple questions that we get asked a lot, and we wanted to kind of go live and go over some of these questions. And we're going to be talking about real estate investing. And on that note, before we get started, I want to say with this holiday season coming up, hopefully everyone's making plans to spend time with family, and we hope you enjoy. So this might be some good listening material during your break. So anyway, Drew, how are you doing?
I'm great, Jason. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, you bet.
Excited to get some questions answered as far as some real estate investing goes. So, really looking forward to it. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, man.
All right, perfect. So, let's get started with my first question of if I wanted to start the early beginnings or get into real estate investing, what would be the best way for me to go about doing that?
You know, uh, there's a few different ways, but I mean, really, at the end of the day, just doing your homework, kind of seeing how aggressive you want to get with your investing. Whether it's just picking up a rental property or even being just lending money for someone else is doing the investing, so you kind of take your risk out of it, or doing a flip or rehab, something like that, which is probably more towards the most aggressive side of the scale. So just deciding what you want to do and do as much homework and find out as much information you can before you get started. So you make sure you're making all the right moves. That's probably the best advice I can give.
All right, perfect. So, um, how would I go about obtaining my first property then? And what would be the best advice you could give me on getting started with my first property?
Yep. Great question. And I tell you, last time we talked, a lot of people get started, maybe when they move to a new house and they end up holding on to their previous house and keep it as a rental. That's how I got started. That's how a lot of people do get started, just kind of almost by default. But that's one good way if you want to hold on to a couple rentals and kind of get your feet wet with that, and then build on to that portfolio if you want to down the road. Now, if you want to say buy a flip property rehab, there's a lot more detail that goes into that. But again, it's just kind of getting all your ducks in a row. Finding the property, getting financing lined up, and then getting your crews lined up, and figure out how to manage it yourself or hire a project manager. So
All right, perfect. So, yeah, definitely. You had touched on my next question a little bit, actually, Jason, of how would I go about financing a rehab property and or expanding my portfolio and doing the financing for that as I wanted to progress into more and more real estate investing.
yeah, great question. I would say first, I'll talk about the rentals. The good thing about holding on to your previous house as your first rental is typically a bank's going to want 20 to 25% down on a new property you purchase as an investment, since it's not going to be your primary residence that you're living in. But in that previous house, you probably only put 3.5 to 5% down, so you kind of get into it for a little bit cheaper than you would if you were going to purchase a new property for a rental. Now, if you're going to do a flip, um, a lot of people just hear, "Hey, you got to buy it with cash, get the best deal," and that's not always the case. But we use a combination of we work with some banks that do rehab loans, construction loans, which will give you the purchase money as well as the fix up money. We work with some private lenders where they're putting their cash in and for us to use, and we pay them interest like we would a bank. Or you can even do, people have heard of hard money lenders, which is similar to that. And they just usually charge a little bit higher rates and maybe some points on top of that. So you got to make sure it's the right deal to be able to use that money, because it's going to cost you more to use the money. So there's a few different ways to go about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Typical of most financing options, right? Just
Yeah,
kind of figure out what's works best for me. Absolutely. So,
yeah.
um, my next question is, again, kind of relating a little bit to some more information you provided in that last answer, but I want us to go a little bit more in depth of how would I go about coming up with the down payment to, again, expand on my investment portfolio and acquire more rentals.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Just I guess depends on your job and how much you can save, or maybe you have a secondary job in the meantime just to earn that extra money. That's one way to do it. Just kind of figure out how you're going to build that up. Maybe cut some stuff out of your monthly spending to build up that cash stash. Or a lot of people that just they want to build up the say 10 rentals over a course of however many years. I always tell them, like, hey, start with a flip, and they call it the chunker strategy. So say you go make 15 or 20 grand on a flip, take that money after you do a couple of them and roll it into a down payment on a rental property. So that's probably a quicker way to build up your down payment than it is just to save a couple $100 a month over time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a very interesting strategy there. Never considered that one, to be honest with you. So, moving into how I would go about actually managing these rental properties and everything like that. So, if I wanted to own and reap the benefits of being a real estate investor, but I really don't want to go about fixing anything,
Yeah,
how would I be able to manage my rentals without having to fix anything?
gotcha. Yeah, so there's two different ways. There's a passive investor or active investor. We're more of the active investors. We self manage our properties, but you get to a point typically. We're not there yet to where you just can't handle it all, or you don't want to handle it at all. So if you want to be more of a passive investor, don't want to fix anything, don't want the phone calls when something goes wrong, then you hire a management company, and again, uh, you have to vet, kind of test out and get referrals of management companies that are good. I mean, I would probably talk to 3 to 5 of them and kind of ask them a long list of questions and how they manage their properties, and just find out, maybe talk to some of their other investors that they work with now, and get some feedback from them. So, uh, but that's the way to do it. And just, you got to look at the cost. I mean, it's going to cost you probably 7 to 10% a month, depending on the property, off the top of the rent, to have that happen. But it's a good trade-off because you're not having to take the phone calls and hire the plumber, hire the electrician to go fix the things that need repaired.
Yeah, most definitely sounds of something of interest once you get to that point of having a more vested kind of portfolio with a lot of properties can definitely be overwhelming to manage and everything like that. So,
Yeah.
um, my last question for you, Jason. So, I have my investment portfolio, right? And I'm currently running it myself, not having any property management companies take that over for me. How do I go about hiring and finding contractors to come in and do that work because I don't have the capital to bring in that property management company to do it for me?
Yep. These days, this day and age, it's a little bit easier, I think, than it was in the past because of social media and the internet. Because you used to kind of look in the yellow pages and pull out a plumber or electrician. You didn't know if they were good or bad. There wasn't any reviews, but there's a lot of real estate investor sites online where there's reviews, and you can get recommendations from people who are currently actively using that contractor. So that's probably the best way. And even with us, if we get so busy that one of our contractors can't keep up, we'll reach out and say, hey, we need an electrician, we need a plumber, and just see who recommends who, and how long they've been using them for. So just kind of turn over all the rocks and see what your best option is. So you just, I mean, because it can, I would rather take a little more time finding the right contractor than picking one and then being sorry later, because they can cost you a whole lot more money picking the wrong one than waiting to pick the right one.
No, absolutely can relate to that because it's actually happened to me a couple times on my own personal property. Uh,
Yeah.
that I picked the wrong contractor and it ends up just being a money pit, so to speak, you know?
Oh yeah.
So that's the last question I had for today, Jason. So I appreciate you taking the time. Any last things you'd like to say before we wrap up today?
I don't think so. Other than just yeah, I'd be happy to talk to anybody that has questions, whether just getting started or need some advice. Anybody needs a contractor, we've got a ton that we've worked with, can refer over and recommend. So other than that, yeah, have a great day and enjoy this nice weather we have right now.